Pastor Ron, near the middle of Luke chapter 10, the 72 disciples return rejoicing for the work they did for the kingdom. Christ says, hey, rejoice that your names are written in heaven. There's a greater rejoicing that we should have. And then he begins to rejoice himself about how the Father has hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. But I have a question for you. Verse 22 says, Christ says this, all things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows who the Son is except the Father, or who the Father is except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Help us understand the significance of this as it relates to Christ's person and his relationship to the Father.
Yeah, in the context there, it's speaking of Christ's authority. That the spirits submit. Jesus sees Satan fall like a lightning bolt out of heaven.
Amazing.
Decisively, and comes down. Reminds us of Revelation chapter 12, and that what is put apocalyptically is what Jesus sees here. So it's part of the authority that Christ has, that he has the authority of the Father, and therefore can send his people out, and they have the authority. It comes back to verse 16 of if they'll listen to you, then they're listening to me. If they reject you, they'll reject me. And so it's part of that, but it does give us an insight into the relationship of the Father and Son. I love it too for New Testament purposes, because it sounds a lot like John, doesn't it?
It does,
Luke.
yeah.
And I think it confirms that John's gospel was not this gospel at the very end that was just sort of tacked on, and John kind of rewrites everything to kind of correct the synoptics, But that whole strain of what Jesus says throughout the Gospel of John was there all through his ministry. It's just that the synoptics choose not to focus on that, some of that aspect
glimpse
very
here
often.
and there.
But it's a glimpse here, a
Yeah.
glimpse of that. And therefore, the knowledge the Son has of the Father is the eternal bond and covenant and relationship that the two have with one another, including the Spirit as well. Although in the Gospels, that's not part of redemptive historically what is going to be emphasized here, but it's part of the Trinity, knowing one another, and love. I think it's more than just some kind of head knowledge of I know what you're like, but the experiencing and the love and the passion for one another as God, in the sense of which we have a hard time understanding, but loves himself, and that's not a sin. It's not something that shows his self-centeredness, but he is it. He is all of it, and he can enjoy himself and has for all eternity, will for all eternity. He knows himself, and yet we as believers somehow get a taste, a glimpse, a connection even with the Trinity as he brings us in.
In a certain sense, that's amazing.
Yeah.